This is Smoking Out the Closet. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rayven. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Asmodeus. I use they, them pronouns.
And welcome. For those of you who are new or just joining us,
We are a queer podcast
pun intended,
that talks about cannabis
the LGBT community,
and everything in between.
and beyond.
So welcome.
Welcome. First and foremost, I want to put a little apology at the start of this episode. I feel like we've been doing that a lot lately. But it's mostly because of me. This past week, we were going to try to record while I was away in Washington, D.C., 1.5 states away. And I say half because D.C. is kind of like half a state.
They get taxation without representation.
Yeah, it's weird. Also was looking at their weed situation. I kind of want to talk about that before we go into today's actual topic.
Okay.
But doing a lot of stuff. The hotel I was staying at had really shitty internet, and I wasn't willing to pay $12 a night for semi-decent internet speed.
Which is so stupid.
It really is, but I mean, I totally get it because it's DC. A lot of shit's more expensive, so probably shelling out the money for the hotel to get better internet is probably more expensive, so they're trying to offset the cost. Not an excuse, just a guess why, but I'm not willing to pay that money. I was joking with you that I'm in a 4-star hotel living like in a 1-star motel. I went down to a grocery store, Harris Teeter, and got like $30 worth of like microwavable shit and just threw it in that fridge. And that was like 80% of my meals. That wasn't taken care of by the group I was with. I was doing vet stuff. If you want to hear about my trip, go over to the Rainbow Veteran Podcast. That's where I talked about what happened while I was away. But also I learned while in DC, did you know they were reciprocal for most medical programs?
No.
So what you have to do is there's, I think, a 3-day, 5-day, a week, 2-week, and then a month and 3 months. I may be misremembering the amounts. But you can pay like, I think for 3 days it was $15.
Mm-hmm.
And you just upload your our Pennsylvania medical cards, and we can just get medical cannabis. But it wasn't worth it for me because, I was going there on a budget.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have a lot of extra funds, and I was going to have to spend $30 just to get the ability to go to a dispensary, and then come back. So it was honestly not worth it for me for where I was. I was in Noma, so I was like a 20-minute walk from the Capitol building. So not a lot of cannabis. It was like a 45-minute walk to the nearest dispensary, at least. And it just wasn't worth it to me. Especially with all the walking I had to do in DC. But next time, if we ever plan a trip to go to DC ourselves, or go near DC, it'll be nice to be able to do that,
Yeah.
Going into today's episode, we're going to be doing one of our first episodes where the entire episode is the topic.
Yeah, the whole episode is the topic.
Okay. I'm not editing that out. I just want to make sure. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be our one solo topic for today's episode is straight versus queer polyamory / ethical non-monogamy. But saying ethical non-monogamy over and over and over again versus polyamory, just time. But I do want to put it out there that, like, when we say straight polyamory, we're talking about either it's fully straight or there is a straight person in it versus fully queer polyamory.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to make the distinction, because there is technically this weird middle ground where like one person is bisexual usually, and that ends up with a whole scenario we are going to talk about. But I feel like a lot of it stems from the straight one. And unfortunately, usually straight cis men. So
They're the problem again, huh? Interesting.
So we should probably talked about polyamory before in the past, but just as a refresher, because it's been like 100-something episodes since we've done it.
I was going to say 100-something years. Yeah, it seems like it, honestly. We were talking earlier. I was like, did we talk about this? I can't remember. I'll let me go get my ethical slut book, but I don't want to talk about what we already did. But yeah, let's do a little bit of a refresher.
Okay. Do you want to do the refresher?
Sure. I mean, I got my ethical slut in front of me.
So, well, what is polyamory and or ethical non-monogamy?
Well, when you're talking about polyamory, if you look at the word itself, the etymology of the word, of the parts of it, poly means multiple.
Mm-hmm.
And armor comes from armoire, which is love. So multiple loves. So it's for somebody having multiple romantic partners.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you look at ethical non-monogamy, that's kind of like the umbrella. Like if we want to talk about this in queer terms, like being trans is the umbrella term, right? Also, like there's a bunch of different ways of identifying as non-binary, but that's also just an umbrella term. So like the umbrella above all of these other little guys is ethical non-monogamy, which is just, it can be either swingers are under there, that are couples that go have sex with other couples at parties. You have people who just friends with benefits, mutual hookups, like just platonic sexual relationships. Anything like that is under ethical non-monogamy, as long as everyone is informed, because that's the ethical part of it.
And consenting. Yes. And information and consent is mandatory. Mm-hmm.
Non-monogamy. Period. And in communication.
Yeah. Period. End of sentence.
Period. End of sentence. Mic drop. Not actually. It's on the table. It's
in an arm.
Drop it. Because Rayven knows that I'm clumsy.
This is the thing what I wanted to talk about, because it stemmed from a conversation with our own polycule, especially with our partner we recently moved in, where they were telling a story where they were polyamorous with their straight partner, and then how it's very different being in a fully queer polycule. And that's something I think is very interesting, because it's very, very up our LGBT side of the podcast.
You did say a term that I'm not sure everybody knows, polycule.
Oh, yeah.
So that's something we call our polyamorous group. Some people call them galaxies, universes, whatever. We call them polycules, like a molecule.
Yeah, that's why I like it.
Many cules. They're connected in a bunch of different ways.
And it changes.
Exactly.
Like a molecule.
So, yeah, our people, our polycule.
Yeah. So our partner, Joey, was talking about some of their older experiences. So I do want to talk about it. And before we could talk about that, I think we should talk about the relationship forms of polyamory, like the relationship models.
Yeah.
So I'm on discoveringpolyamory.com where they're talking about it. So there's the triad / throuple, which is 3 people in a triangle.
Yeah.
Basically, think of the love triangle, but everyone's actually romantically and or sexually involved with each other.
The love triangle, where they actually don't have the qualms of, oh, I should pick you. No, I don't want to pick you over you. That polyamory, come on.
The V, where 2 people date the same person, but the other 2 people aren't dating. So, also fixes the love triangle issue. Solo polyamory, where being open to committed relationships, but not choosing a partner to nest with. Comet is someone who has a relationship with someone you only see infrequently. Relationship anarchy, the belief that love and relationships have no set structure. Parallel,
kind of ascribe to that a little bit.
Yeah, the thing is, the philosophy that all relationships are based on entirely on needs, wants, and desires rather than socially mandated labels and expectations. Do not believe in any form of structure or rules in the relationship. No, that's the part I'm not comfy. Yeah, and like if you're in relationship anarchy, that's cool. Yeah, it's It's just we have a lot of boundaries ourselves, and it's not like, oh, you can't date this person. It's just more informing boundary kind of things for us. Yes. Parallel polyamory, where you maintain multiple unconnected relationships. Kitchen table polyamory, or living as a family unit made up of multiple relationships. I would argue that this is different, but I'm going to see what else they have. Oh, okay. So kitchen table is if everybody lives together in one big family, the entirety of a polycule. Then there's garden party polyamory, where the polycule keeps relationships separate, but happy to hang out on special occasions. I feel like that's us.
Yes, garden party.
I feel like we have like this happen to form square, and that specific set is kitchen table, but then like the extensions
is
the garden party.
Because I generally I'll have my partner or my friends with benefits, or I'll be like, hey, we're going to this thing. Do you want to come with us? And we'll all hang out together or something. I've never actually heard that term.
Neither have I.
I like that a lot.
So, hey, listeners, you're learning with us. Yeah. Polyfidelity, a closed polyamorous relationship. So mostly just kind of like either with like sexual partners or polyfidelity relationships. This one's new for me too. Are those made of 3 or more people, all equal, who do not sleep with or date other people outside of the dynamic? Okay. So there's myriads of different ways. There's a term we're going to bring up here called unicorn hunting, where it's 2 people specifically looking for a person to share in the relationship, and usually ends up being formed into polyfidelity sometimes. And then there's hierarchy polyamory, where there is this level of higher stance between the hierarchy in the relationships, which we will talk about. So first, I kind of want to talk about what we're talking about here, straight versus queer polyamory. Like I already said, what we're discussing queer polyamory, it is fully everybody is queer. There is usually no straight person. Usually in the more queer ones, when there is a straight person, the person either figures out they're queer later or is a actual really cool straight person, not a toxic one. But also, the more I kind of dive into polyamory, the more I kind of just figure out there's not really a lot of straight ones in the queer heavy ones, like really at all. I've never really found it, but I give that little explanation because I'm pretty sure there's someone out there like that, where the majority straight polyamory has a lot of issues. And it's part of the reason why you brought out your book. Do you want to talk about what that biggest issue is? Communication. My brain went blank. Oh my god. Okay, big caveat. Everyone listening, give a big hand to Azzy, who's recording this hungover and sick. Yes, but give a big clap for them toughing out. They're being a trooper right now, but their brain's not working fully right now.
The book that I read about it, that I brought out to talk about, it's called The Ethical Slut, and I don't know if we've really talked about it on the podcast much. The book itself, I
don't think we have. We should do a deep dive as part of like those episodes where we're deep diving certain books.
That would be super cool.
I think that'd be a good one.
But can I just read the synopsis real fast?
Mm-hmm.
I have the 20th anniversary edition. This one was put out in 2017. It's the 3rd edition of the book.
Mm-hmm.
The guide of choice for people curious to move beyond conventional monogamy. Whoa! You can keep that in, Kurt. The guide of choice for people curious to move beyond conventional monogamy, and for anyone interested in learning better skills for love, sex, and intimacy. The Ethical Slut will open you up to the adventure and freedom that comes with redefining the way that you relate to friends and lovers. Janet W. Hardy and Dossie Easton offer techniques, skills, and ideals that they have developed from practicing successful and ethical polyamory through open communication, emotional honesty, and managing jealousy. Notice how they didn't say eliminating.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people I know also are like, jealousy is a thing, and yes, it is a thing, but they show you how to manage it in the later half of this book, which is nice. This is the updated and expanded edition, which includes more than 15 practical exercises, new topics such as consent and overcoming sexual shame, tributes to polypioneers, and interviews with contemporary sluts who are making this way of loving a reality. Whether you're a card-carrying slut or just testing the waters, you'll learn how to find your desires and discover romance and friendship beyond your dreams.
And keep in mind, they also updated the language. I've read the second edition, either the first or second, I can't remember. And a lot of the language has changed and been updated, especially I think the third edition, which is the most recent one, has included non-binary language.
Page, yeah, because I was like, there was a page I was kind of flipping through when we sat down, and there's a page about cruising, which that's also it's a dated term.
Yeah.
These are older polyamorous people.
Yeah, they're like in their 80s.
Flirting, right?
Yeah.
Like flirting, trying to find people. And it says like cruising challenges, right? And you flip it, it says there's a section for men. There's a section for women. And then there's a whole paragraph for trans and non-binary people. And then it says for couples and groups, and then, for everybody else.
Yeah.
And like, I love the updated language in this. It's beautiful. And I'm glad this is the copy that I picked up. Because I wanted to find the newest one. And if there is another one, Hardy and Easton, I don't know if you're ever going to find our podcast. If there's another one, I really want to get it. That's one of those ones I pre-ordered.
Yeah. Because like the first edition came out back in the 70s. I'm pretty sure.
Shotgun, I'm curious. Yeah, that makes sense.
But so I want to talk about because communication is a huge thing, and I feel like a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times with, figuring out who you are, having such a tight-knit support network, unfortunately a lot of the LGBT community also goes through therapy, that communication is a bigger thing in the LGBT community. Now, like I said, not always a thing, because I have known some disastrous relationships from queer folks who the issue was communication.
Oh, absolutely.
But on the flip side, and again, this entire episode is just one big generalization, it happens more with straight folks. What's up?
The original copy of The Ethical Slut came out in 1997.
1997, okay.
If for some reason you want to read the original, it's not the same author that does this one. Dossie wrote it with someone else. But if you want to read the original, it is $2.47 on Biblio. In case you're interested. Or probably ThreadBooks.
So yeah, it's I guess I had the 7 and the 9 mixed up in my head.
You did. It's okay.
So generalizing with the straight and what the issues with it, and I'm also going to take Joey's story and kind of it's similar from a lot I've seen. So communication is a big issue a lot of the times for the straight folks that I've noticed. Unicorn hunting, which I did talk about previously a little bit, I'm going to break that down. So usually it's and I want to say usually it's a straight guy with a bisexual or some flavor of queer woman, and they're looking for someone to interact with just the two of them. And the horror stories I have heard online with these folks, you're looking at me like holy crap, but like I'm sure your brain is some of the Reddit posts.
My brain immediately went to those people in State College that I met. Was like, oh yeah, I just wanted to hang out with her, and then her boyfriend was all like, well, I'm like, no, I don't, I'm not attracted to you. And then I ended up hanging out with her, and I'm like, I'm not attracted to you either, because they told me 700 like home wrecking stories on this first encounter of seeing them in person, and I'm like, dang it.
Yeah,
something I want to be involved with.
So here's the issue with like unicorn hunting with this kind of specific dynamic. And I want to say this here because it's kind of like in this weird middle ground. So the reason why I want to talk about this is because this is the biggest middle ground issue. And then I feel like most of the issues of the straight side are mostly just straight. or can be applied to this weird middle ground dynamic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the times there's hierarchy, like the third person is more of a kind of like a secondary to the entire relationship, not treated equally, not treated respectfully. And then there's also the issue of sometimes age. So a lot of these can be older folks preying on like 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. So that's a little
or even just progressive age gaps.
Yeah.
Like this person I met up with, I think she was on the later end of 30.
Yeah.
And he was like 40 something, and I was like 20 something.
Yeah, and like the thing is, like, I'm not saying age gaps are an automatic red flag, but it's definitely something to keep an eye out on.
Yes.
And then also the fact that usually with these unicorn hunters, you cannot date other people.
Yeah.
You can only date them.
Be with them, have sex with them, date them. Like you become theirs.
Yeah. You're more of like a relationship. I hate to say it this way, but it's more like they treat you like property than a person.
Yeah.
And that's really rough. So I do want to talk about that because I'm going to continue with that basis, and I'm going to go into the straight side. Again, these are generalizations. Usually, I know there's a lot more that are either better or worse on both sides of this. But again, this is very generalization, not only based on our experiences, but shit we've seen online.
Yeah.
So, and I want to say this before I continue. If this doesn't sound like your relationship, if you're a fully straight, polyamorous group, ethically non-monogamous, and this isn't you, good. We're not talking about you. But share your stories online. Talk about the good stuff, because we need more of y'all talking about the good side of it, please, for the love of gods. Any god. I don't care. Anyway, here we go. So, more often than not, out of straight polyamory, OPP is a thing. Or, for those of you who don't know, Azzy, do you want to talk about OPP?
One penis policy, and it makes me pissed off, because you don't hear about it the other way. It's like, well, which one? It's not a one pussy policy, I can tell you that fucking much.
Because everybody loves the pussy.
Everybody loves the pussy. No, it's a one penis policy, because one person with a penis, generally a straight man, thinks his penis is the only one that should be allowed in that person.
Mm-hmm. Or people. And they go, when you're with me, I'm your only PP you need, right? No, absolutely not. Yeah, like...
That's that, and it creeps into that weird possessive world of, like... It all comes back to, hey, oh, wait, I'm wearing my tenant bracelet, my Satanic Temple tenant bracelet, that one's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of, like, the whole, like, kind of... I don't want to say the LGBT community is a lot more free love, but just more, it's expanded into the free love realm.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that just being queer is already different than the norm. So having that understanding and exploring is a lot different. Mm-hmm. Also kind of hard to do a OPP when everyone's a gay man or a gay woman.
Yeah.
That's a little harder. Unless all the women are fluid bonded to the same dildo. but like, God, that was sapphic humor. But anyway, and then that's like the thing too, is like, take our relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Up until your newest friend would benefit, anyone could look at us and think it's an OPP if they didn't know us, because me as a trans girl, a woman who hasn't had bottom surgery, would technically fit that bill. But the problem is, I don't give a fuck. It is just happenstance that's how it found. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, why? I'm like, I'm not the one telling them they can't. They're the ones that are saying no, which is their right.
Because I get a bunch of fucking weirdos
Yeah.
There are so many weirdos online. And like, did we say Tinder was the #1 offender for fucking unicorn hunting?
No.
In this episode, this record around?
No.
Oh my god, that's where I met those two.
Yeah.
Tinder. The worst for that. We met on Tinder. We got married from Tinder. We are one of the only success Tinder. If you want to reach out to us, if you can pay us some bunch of money and say we got married and we met on your platform. But that's not the image even they're going for, really.
No. That's more of an eHarmony conversation.
Unicorn hunters and joint
accounts, yeah.
Anybody who says blank and blank, absolutely not. Immediately swipe left. I'm still in there once in a rare blue moon. That's where I met my FWB.
I haven't been on it because honestly, I'm at that key point where I'm like, I feel like if I have another partner, I'm going to be polysaturated. Like I maybe have one more partner in me, and it's already kind of being like there's a reserved on the table. There's a Pittsburgh parking chair in that spot. You know who it's for. Don't look at me like that. I'm not saying his name on the show. You know who it's for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the fuck you get like the simp.
Maybe he's listening.
Oh, he'll know who it is, but I'm not saying it.
You know who you are. Your Pittsburgh parking chair.
But anyway, so that and it's that's just what it's like for me right now. What was with that face?
I had to write this quote down before I forget.
Okay.
I saved you a Pittsburgh parking chair in my heart.
That needs to be new merch.
Yeah.
New merch. Trademarked. We're trademarking that right now. Tap 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 on my computer. But I will also say I've seen sapphic unicorn hunters.
How does that work?
I don't know. It was one of the last times before I started dating twos that I was swiping it, and it was really interesting because they're transphobic lesbian unicorn hunters. Yeah. So like I said, these are generalizations. There are some queers who don't know how to talk to each other. There's some LGBT folks who don't do polyamory very well. Again,
I've been lucky with the queer people I've met out here specifically. There seems to be a lot of ethically non-monogamous people, especially that are queer. Yes. I feel like 90% of the time when I go up to a queer person in the Pittsburgh area and I'm talking to them and I learn about a dynamic, they either have had some flings, they might be single, or they might have somebody and they might kind of just be talking, or they don't, obviously don't know their life story, but they don't seem to be sometimes they'll say, come across a gay man, yeah, I love him, he's my husband and we're getting married and I love that. I love that for them. And they exist still, right? But I don't know. Have you noticed that? We have a larger population, I feel like, out here.
Yeah.
I think in general, too, it's become more accepted.
Yeah, especially in the queer spaces, I've noticed that. And I think that's another reason why the straight side of polyamory has such a negative thing, is because the ones you do hear about are always horror stories. You never hear the good stories because a lot of them don't really talk about it.
Talk about the worst horror story of them all that people get confused with us.
What?
The sister wife bullshit.
Oh.
The sister wives shit. And the fucking Mormons. We are not that acts. No. The separation there, I think we talked about that.
Yeah,
briefly, but the separation there is very important.
Yeah.
Because that's also where a lot of the horror stories and bad PR for polyamory comes from. It's these people toting around polyamory, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a thing that's also really that's polyandry, where one man has multiple wives.
Polygamy.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Yes. One man with multiple wives, polygamy.
Polyandry's one wife, multiple husbands.
Good for her.
I think, if I'm remembering. Well, because my triple G big from my sorority, it was a co-ed service fraternity. I just call it sorority because it's funny. She was very interested in that because her major was anthropology. So we would have conversations about that and stuff all the time. But yeah, another thing with the straight side, I feel like is always a big issue is so here's usually how a lot of people think like that. Like it's just one guy with multiple wives, one girl with multiple guys, right? But like I've seen it where it's like one guy and his girlfriend has a boyfriend and her boyfriend has a girlfriend, and then it's just a chain. It's like a pyramid scheme. State polyamory is Avon.
Vector Knife Company. You get this shit. Avon every once in a while.
But like that's kind of how I feel like straight poly, like.
No, we don't, but it feels like that.
Where, more queer ones are like, and the ones that are in the middle are like, Aubrey Plaza's character in Parks or Rec. It's like, this is my boyfriend Jamie, and that's his boyfriend Mike. But like, it's still like, I feel like there's no good. And I hate to say this, I feel like a lot of the issues with the straight folks, like I said, are only the negative side, because I feel like there's no good straight representation of polyamory.
A lot of it I've seen is the one dude and his two girlfriends. I don't know why that seems to end up being what gets represented.
Yes, that is usually the throuple. But it's, to me, that's still kind of weird, because like it's got the two girls are also interested in each other, or it's either that or it's the straight V.
That's what I'm talking about.
The straight V? Okay.
V. That's a lot what I see a lot of. It's one dude and he has his two friends.
Yeah.
They don't.
But you notice the female lead young adult books can easily be the opposite straight V, where it's Bella with Edward and Jacob.
Yeah.
I know this is not how it actually works in the book/movie, but that could have easily been that way. Yeah. But no one's brave enough to make that media.
And also, don't you think that, like, real quick, side tangent, Edward and Jacob would hate fuck. Like, they would at least hook up if they were like, okay, well, whatever, I guess we can share her. I just said what the fandom's thinking.
I'm dying.
Since for some reason we have Twilight shirts at Walmart again, maybe this will get us more clicks. Tag Twilight on this. This is 2008?
We're about to hit a major recession. And so like, I feel like, yeah, that's like a lot of the issues with the straight folks is that that's all we hear. That's all we hear with the straight folks. And the queer heavy ones are usually a lot better. I'm not saying that they don't have their own horror stories, because we're all human. Mm-hmm. We all fuck up. We all don't communicate well.
Terrorist human.
Yes. But like, I think that's a big thing with the straight side. So we've gone over OPP. We've gone over have we gone over hierarchy as a full? Because I kind of talked about it.
I don't think so. I think we just kind of skimmed it. This is a thing that exists.
Yeah, okay. Because
let's talk about it.
I do want to go back to the hierarchy side, because as we talked about with like the bi-unicorn hunting thing, straight polyamory has a hierarchy issue really fucking bad. Like, worse than queer folks. Like, there are a couple of hierarchy queer folks. We unfortunately had a partner that was like that.
Yeah.
Who we're pretty sure was using it just to find a permanent partner for themselves and didn't care who got hurt along the way. Yeah. But so here's usually how it works in with straight folks is with their polyamory or ethical non-monogamy is the married couple are the more important ones in the relationship. It doesn't matter if you become a live-in partner or a nesting partner. It doesn't matter if you and the one person have a kid together. You're not the one that they're married to. And so you're kind of, I hate to say it, but if I'm going to break it down in a very easy to understand for some folks, you're the side chick. You're the side piece. You're the one that you're the mistress. You're not the one that's important because you're not the one that they're married to.
You're not the main focus.
Yes, you will. And that's an issue with hierarchy is because, and if you're into that and if you're okay with that, cool. But for me, it's not a big thing because it always creates drama. It creates malice. It creates hurt. Where I feel like, yes, you and me are married, but there's a big reason for that. And a lot of it is tax, insurances, and VA.
At the time when we got married, state insurance benefits?
Yep.
And
COVID was a big thing. Yeah.
Because in the middle of the pandemic.
Because, like, that's the thing is, like, I feel like it's, to me, and we've kind of talked about it, it's more just a piece of paper. Like, I love you to death, but, like, we have our wife Tuesday, we have our spouse Joey. Like, we're all, in a way, like, we're not on paper married, but it feels
like,
that way.
Emotionally feels like we are.
Yeah.
Emotionally we are, right? We haven't had, the rest of us haven't had our ceremonies yet. But you and I also did a hand fasting on top of our marriage. The marriage was the government.
Yes.
That was the legal paperwork, right? What was more important was sitting there with you at your mom's, exchanging our vows and having our hand fasting cord and doing that.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like, is honestly that's where like marriage had started.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then that emotional aspect of it.
The emotional side, yeah. And that's the thing too, is like, say if I get another partner and we don't get to that level, that's fine. I'm still going to treat them with the same respect, energy, communication level that I treat you. Mm-hmm. Any partner I have, I treat them the exact same way I treat you. And I think that's the thing. Because, like, again, not everybody wants to be nesting partners. We just happen to have found, like, 4 people who do want to be nesting partners, and it works. And it's yeah.
And this is how can you be monogamous? Come on.
So, like, that's the thing is, like, that's where I feel like with the straighter side, it's not fully understood on that front, and it creates the hierarchy system.
Yeah.
And hierarchy system really just not that good.
Everything just comes back to a lack of communication.
It really does. It really does. Because, like,
you go ahead and talk. I'm gonna look.
Yeah,
there's a whole chapter.
Well, because, like, I'm trying to find an example. Because, like, if I got a girlfriend or a boyfriend tomorrow, and we're hitting it off, like, each relationship is different, right? Like, maybe I'll go down the road and, like, we end up wanting to be, like, in that level of, like, emotionally married, but, like, we don't want to live together, right? And that's totally fine. Or maybe that we don't end up in that level, and that's also fine. But it's not like they're more important to you, and it's not like you're more important to them just because our relationships are different.
Yeah.
Where with the straight folks, and I feel like it ties back into the weird understanding of marriage that has come about in the last few hundred years, is that the marriage has to be the main focus above everything, with the exception of work. I feel like a lot of people focus work more than marriage, where you should be keeping your partners happy. But, like, in relationship levels, the marriage is the more important thing. And it sucks because some people don't want to date married couples or married folk because of that whole understanding that usually comes from the more straight side of polyamory. What'd you find?
I was looking, the Myths and Realities chapter of The Ethical Slut starts off with, there's a little intro paragraph, but so we've all been taught that one way of relating, lifelong monogamous heterosexual marriage is the only right way. We are told that monogamy is, quote, normal and, quote, natural. If our desires not fit into that constraint, we're morally deficient, psychologically disturbed, and going against nature. Many of us feel instinctively it's something wrong with this picture, but how do you dig up and examine a belief that you don't even know you hold?
Damn. wise words there.
Yeah.
And can I also talk about the fact that this isn't really a thing, and this is what grinds my gears with like people who say they're ethically non-monogamous and they're not actually, is the excuse to cheat. So I knew this straight couple who were non-monogamous, right?
Yeah.
And the rule was they had a boundary, and the husband broke it with one of his employees, mind you. I'm not going to say names, but it was back when I worked at Hibachi.
Okay.
I think you know who I'm talking about. That is the issue with polyamory or ethical non-monogamy, is a lot of the times people don't communicate well on the straighter side. They don't set proper boundaries. And I think a lot of that, like I said earlier, is because queer folks go through therapy.
Yeah.
Either because of issues with their childhood, being queer, or just living in a society that for decades hated us, still kind of do.
And living in a society that wasn't originally made for us.
Yeah. So like there's usually a lot of stuff to unpack and people go through therapy, or some elder queer comes along who has gone through therapy and kind of just becomes a mentor / therapist.
Yeah.
So there's a lot with that. And I feel like with straighter folks, they don't usually have that. So, but here's the thing with the people who say they're ethically non-monogamous and cheat, or if you're just any flavor, doesn't matter if you're straight or queer, of non-monogamous and cheat and or break boundaries, you're a fucking piece of shit.
You're the worst, one of the worst possible human beings. Because you have opened that line of communication to say, hey, we're going to talk about all of this. And I trust you to talk to me about all of this. You don't have to restrain yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to hide these things from me. We'll talk through it. And you did it anyway.
Mm-hmm. That is just grade A bullshit, is what it is. Because, and I think a lot of it stems from the fact that straight people don't have anything that makes them feel this. The way queer relationships have been demonized, stigmatized, and everything. So the fact they're like, oh, they don't really have, I don't want to say knowledge, but more of an understanding of kind of how to communicate with this kind of stuff. Because, like, if you say you're like, hey, I have feelings for another person, like we know polyamory is a thing, right? Just like straight couple AB. I don't know why I keep going to that, but AB. And A talks to his wife B and says, hey, I have another feelings for, this. I know open relationships are a thing. They talk about it, open that communication. They try it, right? The problem is there's a lot of inherent shame from going away from the norm. A lot of queer folks experience this when they're first realizing their orientation. That shame has gone down a lot in the decades with each newer generation. But even still, especially depending on where you are, what kind of relationship you have with your family, there's an inherent shame of going against the grain and being who you are. And it's a sad shame, but also it's a shame that I feel like is put on by society, that they make you feel like you should have this shame. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm explaining that right.
Like the quote I pulled from the book, this is what has always been taught to you as being normal. This is what they tote, and this is what they sign, seal, deliver, package, send to your doorstep that you're supposed to achieve in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, but I'm not all of these things. I don't fit in this little box. And they go, well, why don't you?
Yeah, because like that's the thing with like,
because if you do fall in the box, they don't say, well, why do you fall in the box? Why are you a straight white man?
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, I feel like every Hallmark movie could be easily fixed. With like, oh, she has this really great guy who lives in the city she's in, and he's financially and emotionally stable. He does all this thing, but then she goes home and finds the little old farm boy she used to know. and he's now a man and everything, and she ends up falling for him. And instead of talking about it and communicating and either being, oh, well, we're monogamous and I'm loyal to you, or I need to kind of take some time away from both of you to figure out where my feelings lie, or opening up the relationship and actually understanding and letting her explore it, but still making sure that there's boundaries and everything set. It's just every Hallmark formula ever. She comes from the big city. She goes back to her small town, fall in love with the small town guy. Essentially kind of cheats on, emotionally at least, on the big city boyfriend. Big city boyfriend comes back, ends up realizing she doesn't want to be with him, or still does, but loves the small town guy more. Breaks up with the big city guy. Big city guy goes, well, fuck you. Or usually it's just more, oh, okay. Goes back to the big city sad as hell and ends up marrying the small town guy. Congratulations, everybody. You have watched every Hallmark romance, especially every Hallmark Christmas romance movie ever.
She's just saved you so much television.
It is formulaic and repetitive dribble at best, and awesome riff tracks availability for a good time with others at best. But that's the thing. That's where I feel like that is where you get the closest accepted-ish form of polyamory or ethical non-monogamy. Now, there are things that a lot of older folks, especially during the 70s, were able to talk about and get away, and it was a little more accepted. It wasn't accepted as a whole in society, but it was accepted as a thing people did. And it took you forever to figure out what it was in The Grinch. With the key in the fishbowl.
Yeah, Swingers parties, fishbowl key parties.
And that was more of a way, and it was basically kind of just silent agreements, and it was just more of sex outside of relationships, right?
Wasn't it whoever's keys you picked up?
That's who you're going home with. It's usually because most of the time the husband kept a hold of the key. This is the old style that I know. I don't know how it works nowadays. I do know that swingers still exist. That's why there's pineapples upside down on cruise ship doors.
There's a swingers club 40 minutes away from here.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did not know that.
You have to be a registered couple to be in to be able to.
Yeah, that's weird.
You can't go in as a single.
Okay, but I mean that kind of makes sense with how swingers usually work. It is couples usually. But, like, it was usually the husband's keys, and so the women would go around and pick up the keys, and whoever keys belonged to the husband, that's who the woman went with that night. Which is really funny because there's a cartoon version of this that I saw where it's Popeye and Olive Oyl, Dagwood and his wife, and then another couple from an older cartoon I don't know because I've never seen it. And then Popeye's with someone else, Olive Oil's with Dagwood, and then someone's with someone else. I'm just like, okay, Popeye. Fuck it. And Olive got it pretty good up too. So I'm like, oh, good for Olive. Dagwood didn't do too bad either, but Dagwood already had a smoking hot wife. But like that's how normalized swinger culture was brought into society. And then the 80s happened.
When I think of 70s and swinger culture, Austin just comes to my head from Austin Powers.
Yes, but he's a swinger, but also not a swinger.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, he's a swinger in the sense that he's a solo swinger. He's solo polyamory.
Yes.
If you want to put it in terms for people to understand, Austin Powers, especially for our generation, Austin Powers is the solo polyamory person. He is solo polyamory. Very one love, very hippy dippy, not tied down to anybody romantically. But when he gave it his all for that person.
Mm-hmm.
So, and who knows? Maybe if it was a little more exciting, expanded and talked about, maybe in Austin Powers 4, if we ever get it, because I know Mike Myers has talked about wanting to make a 4th Austin Powers. Maybe he ends up in a throuple. Dude, that'd be awesome to see Powers in a throuple.
Looking to see why we haven't gotten another Myers movie recently. He's just kind of crashed after Cat in the Hat.
Yeah. That's a conversation outside the podcast. And that's not even an episode. That's just outside the podcast talk right there. God, I feel bad for him with that movie. Is there anything you want to say? Because we are 10 minutes till the end of the episode. Yeah.
I think I don't know. I think we pretty much covered it. I'm glad I got to get my book out.
Yeah.
And definitely we'll throw stuff in the show notes. Do you want to link the website that you used in the book and where you can find it and everything?
I don't know where to reference for the book because most of these books places are kind of been destroyed or taken out by Amazon, and Amazon's the only place I can think of right now.
Who does Amazon own?
I will. Huh?
Does Amazon own thrift books?
I think
that fucking sucks. Go to your local bookstore and ask them.
I will link the Wikipedia page for the Ethical Slut.
Yes, or also it might be on the Internet Archive.
Mm-hmm.
The older ones. But no, I feel like we covered a lot. We talked about what was important. So.
Yeah, and I want to say again that these are general fucking isms. These are general things. Like, just because you're inherently queer does not make you being polyamorous immediately fucking better right off the get-go. Just because you're straight does not mean polyamory is generally worse right off the get-go. But there is a bit more understanding. It's just a different way of understanding relationships and love and everything, kind of based on societal norms based off of straight folks and just the liberation from that with queer folks. So I want to do a big caveat here, and I kind of want to end the episode with some lesson, with some tips. I feel like that's a good way to end it, right?
Yeah.
And these are regardless of your sexual orientation or gender identity, these are things that I feel like are going to be really great for you. One, the biggest one, we've harped on this the entire fucking episode, is communication. Communicate with your partner or partners, set boundaries, talk to them, and sometimes boundaries can evolve. That's happened with us, and especially when, mental health comes into play with certain things too. It is definitely something that should be talked about and explored, but do it in a way that makes sure that everyone's in the know, communication is set, and there are, I hate to say rules, but rules are kind of a good thing for a reason. Now, relationship anarchy, if that is your bag, there are still boundaries, there are still kind of mostly just boundaries over rules kind of thing, but also too many rules can be bad. So
find out what works for you.
Exactly.
Every form of polyamory is suitable for everyone.
Yes, and not everyone's relationships are going to work. Like, I never thought we would end up with a square.
Me either.
Well, and it's not even a full square because it's got like cross in the middle of it. Yeah, it's the side of a crate.
I ship us. It's a shipping crate.
Oh my god. That's so bad. Communication is a thing. Boundary setting is a thing that I think a lot of people should know. Definitely read The Ethical Slut. Go to r/ethical non-monogamy or r/polyamory and kind of learn stuff from either communication stories there. Learn what's good, what's bad.
Learn as much as you possibly
can. Learning as much as you can is a great thing.
Because there are some things that you should probably figure out before you try to practice anything.
Yes. One thing is also figure out yourself.
Yes.
I think this is a big thing, is communication, but with yourself. Mental health, what you're okay with, not okay with, how to manage your emotions. Because like you said earlier, jealousy is a thing. Even if you're in a polyamorous relationship, jealousy is a thing. And I've gotten jealous before. And I had to figure out, and the book Ethical Slut does talk about this too, is I had to figure out where the jealousy was coming from and what was I concerned about. And lo and behold, I was jealous of another trans woman. I was worried that, it was a a thing for you, and I was gonna lose you because I wasn't the new hip trans girl. It's a dumb thing,
but it was something that you were worried about.
Yeah, and that stemmed from me losing you, the fear of losing you because you became so important. And now I have that fear applied to 2 other people. Yay. But what a beautiful thing to experience that I love so many people that I have just become attached to. Do you have any other tips for anybody before we sign off?
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
If you know people, I know I'm an open freaking book. I being queer and being poly and just, I don't know, I've just always been open about stuff when people talk to me, and I told them that. I've taught a lot of people about polyamory. So if you know someone, see if you can strike a conversation with them. If you know somebody who knows somebody who's like, oh, hey, I think this person is like poly, and they're like, oh, you're interested? Strike up a conversation. We're usually not that scary of people to talk to.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
We've actually, we talked to our neighbors about this and, explained it to them before. And, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's not a scary topic. And honestly, I feel like it's getting more accepted nowadays. But again, most of the media is either like you said, the straight V or the queer poly cool. Mm-hmm. That's it. That is the media depiction. Is either the straight V, usually a guy with 2 girlfriends, like you said, mm-hmm. or just a bunch of queers in a giant cuddle puddle. Yep. And I'm not saying that stereotype isn't there for a reason, but it's not an accurate and always full depiction of the communities. I'll just put it that way. Not every queer person is polyamorous. Not every straight person is monogamous. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, I think we did a pretty good episode. Again, please refer to our older episodes on polyamory that we talked about, and we did deeper dives on polyamory ourselves. This was just a pattern we just happened to see and came up in conversation with our own polycool of how straighter folks and queer folks have very different, generally different views / understanding and boundary works of polyamory. With that, I forgot how to sign out on our episodes. So once again, my name is Rayven. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Asmodeus. I use they, them pronouns.
This has been another episode of Smoking Out the Closet. Bye!